This is the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series on TSN. We're at the Speedway at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the Clarington 200, round number 3 of 12 to determine the 2012 champion. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Dave Bradley. Along with me is Billy Rouse Jr. and Todd Lewis, as always, is trackside. Billy, we leave the right turns behind for a little while, and it's back to racing on the ovals.
Well, to say it's been exciting the first two races would be an understatement for sure. These guys went at them first two road courses like it was for the championship every lap. I mean, just turned it loose. And tonight, whole new scenario. We're at the first oval track of the year, and they're hungry.
And this Speedway is pretty unique. It's a half mile, and you won't find it anywhere else on the circuit, let alone in the country.
Absolutely. Two long straightaways, two unique corners. Turn one is the key. It goes downhill a little bit. If you get it right, there's a bump. It sets you up nicely to get off into turn two. If you miss it, it'll cost you 3 or 4 tenths and maybe a couple spots.
And, of course, with those long straightaways, horsepower is key, but, of course, strategy plays a big role here as well. And one driver who's been a magician with strategy in years gone by is Don Thompson Jr. Now he's hung up the racing helmet. We've talked about that before. He's now back in the Fitzpatrick camp. Do you think he's passed along a little bit of that wisdom?
Well, he's got some magic to share for sure. We've talked about Don being up on top of the pit box, and it'd be just a credit to anybody's crew. But young Fitzpatrick has taken it to heart. Besides that, J.R Fitzpatrick has matured as a driver this year. He's a true wheelman this year, and he's getting the job done.
He really has. In the first two races, a first and a second place, and that lands him at the top of the point standings. Just 1 point separate him and his arch nemesis, though, the 27 of Andrew Ranger. But don't look now, the 17 of DJ Kennington and the 22 of Scott Steckley are right there.
Well, it's the usual cast of characters for sure, year in and year out. But take a look back a little further. It's the kid from Quebec, LP DUMOULIN, in that 47 car, hanging tough, running strong, having a lot of fun here in this series.
We went qualifying a little bit earlier on this evening, and with more on that story, let's send it down trackside to Todd Lewis. Todd?
Thanks, Dave. We had 21 cars take qualifying times a little bit earlier today under absolutely ideal conditions here on this half-mile speedway. When it was all said and done, it was the number 7 National Exhaust Dodge for Pete Shepard who came away with the pole time of 21.517, a little under 84 miles per hour. It is a new track record, and Pete, first race of the season, a great way to get things started for you. Now you just need 200 more like it, correct?
Absolutely. You know, it's going to be an endurance race, a hot day. We just got to keep the National Exhaust car all the way up, at the front of the field all day, and we'll have a good one. Got to thank all the sponsors. Chairs R Us out today, as well as BioX Performance Nutrition. We're just looking to have a solid run and finish our first race of the year.
Good luck today.
Thank you so much, Todd.
All right, Pete Shepard starting on the pole position. Alongside on the front row, well, it is the number 15 of Steve Matthews in the Matthews Motorsports Ford. Steve Matthews has finished in the top 10 in both of his events here previously. And Steve, looking forward to another good run here at Motorsport in your third go-around.
Exactly. Third time might be the charm, I'm hoping. We qualified one position better than last year, and 200 laps is a marathon. Hopefully we can do it.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, Steve Matthews and Pete Shepard, just some of the young talent that we'll be watching for. Both have finished well on this speedway in previous outings.
Well, that's right, Todd. That young talent on the front row should make for an interesting first lap, let alone an exciting race here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Well, they're young and they're talented and they have some experience. But while these other guys were off racing on these road courses, these guys were home doing their homework. And I'll tell you what, their homework must have been pretty good when you start in the front row. Very first oval of the year, but the veterans are sitting back there wanting a piece of the act as well. They're here, they're hungry. This is going to be a great opener on the oval.
Well, the scene is set. When we return, we'll fire the engines for the start of the Clarington 200 here on TSN. The third race of the 2012 NASCAR Canadian Tire Series is brought to you by Canadian Tire. Love of racing, bring it on. By MOPAR, authentic performance. By Castrol Edge, our best Castrol ever. And by EMCO, one of Canada's largest distributors of products for the construction industry. Well, as we get ready to get the Clarington 200 underway, you'll notice all the cars on the front straight, but there is one car on pit lane. Todd's got an update. Todd?
Guys, just before we fire the engines, the 23 Tim Hortons Dodge of Jeff Lapsevich will be ready to go for this race. Jeff's just putting his helmet on now. They thrashed to repair a clutch problem. The exhaust was torn up. This team has done an amazing job to be ready to start this event.
Well, thanks very much, Todd. As the Fastline crew prepares to race, let's send it down to RUPINDER DHALIWAL from VORTEX Brake Pads for tonight's command.
Drivers, start your engines. Young Pete Shepard from Brampton, Ontario gets that National Exhaust Dodge fired up for his second career pole.
Keep an eye on that 7 car. He will be fast. Fastest in practice, though, the 17 Castrol Edge Dodge of DJ Kennington. Moldy managed to qualify 5th. Will ride on board with Ray Quartermash Jr. in the 29. And also, there is the 22 of Scott Steckley, last year's champion of the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, still looking for his first win of 2012. So as the Dodge Challenger SRT pace car pulls away, the rest of the field will do the same, and we'll take a look at the GCMI starting grid. There is your front row. Pete Shepard in the 7 and young Stephen Matthews in the 15 from New Liskeard, Ontario. J.R Fitzpatrick is in the 84. Scott Steckley in the 22. That is row number 2. And we look back to row number 3. DJ Kennington. Jason Hathaway with a solid qualifying effort in the 3 car. Row number 4 has Mark Dilley, first time in the 0-2, and Jeff Lapsevich in the 23. He again is starting from pit lane. Andrew Rangers in the 27. Ron Beauchamp Jr. is in the 60. There you see Lapsevich getting going. Young Stephen Cote in the 99, and Larry Jackson drives the 81. That's row number 6. Row 7 has Martin Roy in the 90, and LP DUMOULIN, driver of the 47, last year's Rookie of the Year. Row number 8 and Jason White in the 21. Joey McComb in the 50. Solid qualifying effort for Joey. And row number 9 is Howie Scannell in the 56. Hugo Vannini in the 97. He, too, was pretty quick in practice earlier on this afternoon. Ray Quartermash Jr. drives the 29, and young Noel Dowler makes his first start here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and SCHOLZ will round on the field driving the 11.
Dave, looks real weird when you take a look at the 0-2 and see the name of Mark Dilley above the door for the first time this year.
It sure is weird, but that car is quick.
Let's take a look at the E3 Spark Plugs race analysis for tonight. 200 laps at this little tricky half mile. The 2011 winner, Scott Steckley in the 22.
And before we go racing, let's send it down pit side. Check in with Todd with tonight's Leland lead up to the green.
Guys, a few updates just before we go green here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. The 0-2, a familiar number, but Mark Dilley behind the wheel, making his first start of the season. He will drive all of the oval races. Kerry Micks will return to that seat for the next road course event. You saw the 23 Tim Hortons Dodge of Jeff Lapsevich. The team thrashed to get him ready. He is out, will start at the back. Also, the 17 Castrol Edge Dodge of DJ Kennington sent to the back of the field for unapproved changes. The team was adjusting tire pressures after the allotted time. According to NASCAR officials, he's been penalized for it.
Wow, after the allotted time. So they're making adjustments. Oh, we got a car on pit road.
And it is the 22 of Scott Steckley, trouble for the 2011 champion.
Is it in the steering or anything?
Wow, another huge development. Before we've even taken the green, they're checking the tires because Scott Steckley said this 22 Canadian Tire Dodge doesn't feel right. He's not sure exactly what the problem is. They want to make sure that the handling is set. Scott's been fighting with this car all day. They tried a radically different setup, and now there's something that just does not feel right in that car.
Well, drivers get a certain feel, Dave, and you know, when it was very hot in the afternoon, the car would be a little slippery. Now the sun's going down, the track temperature's going down, the car will have a total different feel.
Well, this is going to have a huge impact on the points. DJ Kennington and Scott Steckley both tied for 3rd in points coming into this event, and he's still on pit lane. Look, there appears to be some fluid down, or possibly they're checking the rear end.
That was a drive plate or an axle problem, Dave. You're not able to turn one of them left rear wheels all by itself when the right rear is still on the ground.
Adrian Foster, the mayor of Clarington County, with green flag in hand, set to send this field to green. It's up and we're underway.
Down into turn 1 for the first time. The 7 gets a great jump. Leaves Matthews out in the high side. The 84 of J.R Fitzpatrick able to take 2nd.
Mark Dilley in the 0-2 looking to pick up a number of spots on the inside. Had to back out as the door got closed. Looked like Matthews pretty ginger going into turn 1 for the first time. The lap leader of lap number 1 will be the 7 of Pete Shepard. But you think Matthews on the outside was like, wait a second, I'm going to save my stuff for later in this race.
Well, just like happened to DJ Kennington right there. DJ sailed it off on the outside. The crew chiefs start these tires very low in air pressure, calculating what the buildup will be as the laps turn. So you got to be a little bit ginger for the first 5 or 6 laps.
A number of these drivers have been out testing. There is the 17 of DJ Kennington already up to 14th position after starting near the back of the pack for unapproved changes to that Castrol Edge Dodge. But a number of these drivers did test here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park at the Speedway and said they found some speed. The longer they came, the more they figured it out, the better the car worked.
DJ Kennington automobile just on rails right now. Dave, you stood with me earlier today when I was showing you how well that car rotated the middle. They've got that car handling extremely well, and that's the important part. You can have all the horsepower in the world, but if you can't get it to the ground, you're not going anywhere. That car rotates in the middle really well.
Larry Jackson in the 81 stuck up on the outside as Kennington picks up yet another position. Jackson had his own troubles in qualifying earlier on, or in practice earlier on this afternoon. Actually, a blown fuel line caught that car on fire.
As the 22 is back along pit road as the field flies by under green, they believe the left rear axle is the problem. They're going to get the car up in the air, change it as quickly as possible, and send Scott back out. Wow, what a lot of action, and we're barely underway.
Well, pretty exciting race so far. The 22 team are prepared. We've all got these strict little axle pullers. Everything's on the crash cart. The outside drive plate hub comes off. The old axle comes out. New axle goes in. Not a problem. Should be 5 to 8 laps tops, and he'll be back in the action.
Mike Schultz out of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario in the 11. He'll dive down pit lane as the leaders go by on the outside, and it appears the top 2 cars able to stretch a bit of a gap now on the 15 of Stephen Matthews as we ride on board the 3 of Jason Hathaway. Back to the Leland Industries 02 of Mark Dilley. It is still weird calling the 02 Mark Dilley after Kerry MICKS was in that car for so many years. Caution now on the field and debris on the track, as we're being told from NASCAR race control, so that'll slow things down for the first time here in the Clarington 200. Just an update on the 22 of Scott Steckley. He is in 21st position currently, 8 laps down. There you see him back on the speedway. So good news, he is able to make it back out, and he'll gain as many points as he can out of this afternoon. But your leader is the National Exhaust Dodge, the 7 of Pete Shepard. Welcome back to race 3 of the 2012 NASCAR Canadian Tire Series on TSN. The number 7 of Brampton, Ontario's Pete Shepard will lead the field back to green here on restart number 1 at the Clarington 200. Slowly inching his way onto the front straightaway. Sean Gibbs with the green. It's up. We're back underway.
Up through the gearbox for the second time. Fitzpatrick, all kinds of loose on corner entry out there, but he wants the lead bad. Shepard able to drive down the inside in the preferred line.
Talking about one of those drivers who'd been testing here lots, the 84 Equipment Express Chevy of J.R Fitzpatrick has been here a few times, and he's found a lot of speed as we ride on board the MOPAR Dodge of Ron Beauchamp Jr.
That's a good look at the 60 car of Ron Beauchamp Jr. right there, looking tall. Dion getting that car working very well in practice today.
Side by side for third spot, the 15 of Stephen Matthews alongside the ROCKSTAR Dodge of Jason Hathaway, but Hathaway able to stick up on the outside, finding some traction out there. It gets a little bit loose as we hit 185 laps to go, so still a lot of racing left. Caution flag back out as the field will slow once again.
Well, Dave, I was glad to see that caution because for a second there I thought those guys were going to go 3 wide into turn 1.
There is Larry Jackson, the reason for the second caution here in the Clarington 200 at the Speedway at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and your leader continues to be the 7 of Pete Shepard. Last week, a handful of NASCAR Canadian Tire teams visited the Sick Kids Hospital. Drivers interacted with those children who couldn't make it out to see the cars on closed-circuit television, and for those that ventured out, they were thrilled to grab an autographed hero card and an opportunity to sit in a NASCAR race car. It was a big thrill for the kids, their parents, and those from the NASCAR community that participated. It's one of those feel-good stories.
Absolutely, Dave. Look at all the cars. These guys took time out of their busy shop schedules just to give these kids a treat. Really good thing to do.
Absolutely. An example of the NASCAR community giving back at the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. There is Larry Jackson. Of course, we mentioned had issues in practice earlier on this afternoon. He is a firefighter, so he wasn't too concerned about that car catching on fire. Unfortunately, they didn't get it right in time for this race. Tough blow for that 81 team.
A good look at J.R. Fitzpatrick concentrating, getting ready for this next restart. He wants to get up through the gearbox first and see if he can pin the 7 down on the bottom. It's pretty tough to do in turn 1.
Second restart of the night. We'll see if that 84 can hang on the outside of the 7. Pete Shepard has led every single lap so far, and it will be Pete Shepard nosing into the lead going into corner 1.
Shepard got the jump on him down, but he was so gentle going into turn 1. Fitzpatrick almost run over him.
Stephen Matthews losing a spot on that start as Hathaway goes by and her camera gets struck on the inside of turn number 3. And now Mark Dilley in the 02 battling alongside a fellow Ford. But look who is up inside the top 10, the number 17 of DJ Kennington. Now riding to the outside of the 60, MOPAR Dodge of Ron Beauchamp Jr. And Beauchamp's looking pretty racy in the early going here.
Absolutely. A pair of Fords side by side. And looking back at the 60 and the 17, both Dodges. DJ Kennington very strong up off the corner.
And we can tell you the 22 of Scott Steckley has received the VTEC free pass twice already, but he's still 6 laps down, so a lot of work left to do.
On board with Andrew Ranger, having a look back at the 21. That's the Sun Peaks British Columbia driver in the NW car.
And that's a brand new chassis for the driver of the 27, the GCMI driver, Andrew Ranger. Brand new Levitt chassis underneath him. So he admitted they were trying to figure out a few things. And remember, Ranger hasn't been on an oval in one of these cars since 09.
Also, Tim Ellis, the crew chief, is not a real big fan of some of the new style setups. So they could be going old school here, and that's something Ranger will have to learn.
Stephen Matthews digging on the ROCKSTAR Dodge of 3 of Jason Hathaway. And there's Jason White showing some muscle in the A&W Dodge as he ducks underneath the 60 of Ron Beauchamp Jr. right up to the back bumper of Ranger.
What a great sound. Listen to those motors turn about 7,800 RPM down the backstretch.
Super long straightaways here. This is a battle for 7th position. You can hear those motors just climb in RPM before they have to dump it down, get hard on the brakes to get them turned.
Oh, the 21 has talked about that bump earlier. See, he set that thing down real nice beside Ranger, hit the bump, and it moved up about 4 or 5 feet.
And there you see the nose diving on the 60 of Ron Beauchamp Jr. as it almost hits the asphalt. And now it'll fly down the straightaways. Matthews to the inside of the VORTEX brake pads, number 3 of Jason Hathaway. 3rd spot up for grabs, and it looks like Matthews will have it down the back straightaway. But look who is coming. The 17 of DJ Kennington to the inside of the 3 of Hathaway.
Wow, the cautions have played just right for DJ Kennington. He's been able to take advantage. The field gets strung out. He's picking them off one by one.
Rode on board quickly with the 02 of Mark DILLEY in the Leland Industries Ford. He is up in 6th position, and Kennington looks like he's going to try and make a move on the 15 of Stephen Matthews. This back at the front of the field. Your leader continues to be the 7 of Pete Shepard, followed by J.R Fitzpatrick. Good friends off the speedway, on the track. They're the worst enemies.
Well, not so much. You know, you got to leave your friends at the door. Or as they say, if you want friends at the racetrack, bring them with you.
And here's that move that I mentioned, the Castrol Edge Dodge of DJ Kennington, up 17 positions. Currently sits in 3rd as he moves underneath the 15 of Stephen Matthews.
Watch DJ's hands there. You can just see his arms move a bit. He turns one time in. See the hands all the way left? Nothing back to the right. The car is super smooth.
Well, he mentioned he was fastest in practice. He messed up a little bit on his qualifying runs, and that landed him back in 5th position for qualifying. But that car is quick. But is he quick enough to catch these two as J.R Fitzpatrick now makes a move to the inside of the 7. Looking for the lead goes the 84.
The 7 realized he was going to be out-muscled by the 84, and it's too early to fight, so he just moved up a lane and let him go.
Still there. There's lots of room behind us, Petey. Inside. 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 No left there. Outside. Short and order. Still there. Outside. Outside. You're clear. Clear. All clear.
That's pretty cool. You hear both spotters telling each driver where the other car is on the speedway, trying to keep them apart. As there's J.R Fitzpatrick giving him a little wave, saying thanks very much for not wrecking me or racing me too hard.
Oh, that's just good respect. We're early on. J.R Fitzpatrick flipping him the hands, signal that, hey, thanks for the clear view. We'll get at it a little bit later.
Good look at LP DUMOULIN in the WeatherTech number 47 as he battles with Rookie of the Year contender Stephen Cote. That's a battle for 10th position. Both those cars have been quick pretty much all day long. Actually, the 47 of DUMOULIN ran 84 laps in practice, tops of any car in practice earlier on today. So he's trying to figure things out. Again, this is his first time here.
Well, I just need seat time. That's what these guys, when they're coming here for the first time and it's an oval, it's all about learning where the corners are, because this is a tricky place.
We rode on board quickly there with another driver is making his very first start in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series on an oval, Ray Quartermass Jr. So again, like you say, just learning, getting those laps under your belt, just trying to feel comfortable. J.R. Fitzpatrick's your points leader, also your leader here. Look Welcome back to the Clarington 200, race number 3 of the 2012 NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. The 84 of Cambridge, Ontario's J.R Fitzpatrick is your leader, but he's being hounded by the 17 of DJ Kennington. You remember, Kennington had to start at the tail of the field for unapproved changes. It's taken him this long to make a vie for the lead. He gets alongside the 84, but he'll back out. Joey McComb in the 50 on the inside, he'll tuck out of the way of the leaders, and here comes Kennington again.
DJ Kennington able to keep that 17 Dodge about half a car width down on corner exit. And watch the bite. The back end of the car goes down, he turns it, and look at get the bite. That there, he's a little bit loose, but that thing gets tremendous bite up off the corner.
This is the pass for second position. It happened while we were in break, and you see he just hangs it on the outside, tucks it down low, and sets sail past the 7 of Pete Shepard. That car is hooked up.
Absolutely. And here's a pair of tight friends going at it for the lead with 146 laps to go.
And they won't rough each other up too much. They'll let each other know that they're there, but they won't spin each other on purpose, I don't think. Anyway,
well, you know, they've had some history, but I'll tell you what, they show a lot of respect and restraint with each other. And you know what? That goes a long way, because that's how you treat the other guy when his turn comes.
145 laps to go. You see the point out the window from the 84 of Fitzpatrick. He was telling DJ Kennington exactly what he wanted him to do.
Remember what I said on the opening about the Fitzpatrick boy being mature? 2 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. Great job. He knows right now ain't the time to fight.
There's the 5 car, the MCO Dodge of Noel Dowler Jr. He is in 12th position as we ride on board the 29 of Ray Quartermass Jr. And Dowler making his first start here. He ran most of the season last year, but did not run here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Yeah, he's got a 2-year deal with MCO, but here's the surprise coming. His father, who is a whale of a stock car driver, is rumored to be building a car and will make an appearance at Edmonton.
That would be pretty interesting to see the least. A battle for 9th position between Ron Beauchamp Jr. and the 47 of LP Dumoulin as we ride on board the MOPAR Dodge. Nobody in front of him. Now a couple of Westerners, the 5 of Dowler and the 21 of Jason White, a battle for 11th position. White up on the outside. Looks like he's going to take that position away. And caution now for the 97. Hugo Vanini goes around. No real damage. He got out. Almost got some damage from the 15 of Stephen Matthews as Vanini got the car pointed in the right direction, but this will bunch the field. We'll have another look.
Well, Vanini just gets in too deep. A little bit too much rear brake, I'm sure, and around it went. Oh, pit road is going to be busy.
And let's send it down pit side. Todd, he is standing by. Todd?
All the front runners coming in for scheduled stops for fuel. The 17 of Kennington gets fuel and also an adjustment to the left rear. The 84 of J.R Fitzpatrick also along the midfield, plus the 7 of Pete Shepard. Shepard on his way behind Kennington, and J.R Fitzpatrick will follow them.
A very packed pit road, but the 17 of DJ Kennington will make it out in front, followed by the 7 of Pete Shepard. But your leader is the 47 of LP Dumoulin. For the first time in his NASCAR career, LP Dumoulin in the number 47 WeatherTech Dodge leads on an oval as we get set for the 3rd restart of the day here in the Clarington 200 at the Speedway at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Up through the gearbox one more time. Noel Dowler got a shot out on the outside, rolls it in nice on the outside.
Can he stick it out there? Nobody really has been able to just yet, and the 47 will power his way in the top spot. Here comes Kennington now. He'll take over second position.
Noel Dowler being very respectful of the boss. Remember, the 5 car and the 21 all race out of the 17 shop.
132 laps to go, and Fitzpatrick looking pretty racy in the Equipment Express number 84. He was your leader a little bit earlier on, keeping his nose clean. He's looking big picture racing this year. Comes in as your points leader, albeit by 1 single point over Andrew Ranger, but you know what? Every point counts.
Dave, I'm kind of liking that 47 car out front because that was one of the many numbers that I used when I raced. Looks pretty good out front right now, and Dumoulin is pretty happy about it.
How many times was it out front when you had it, Billy?
Not enough.
The 27 of Andrew Ranger getting in it with the 22 of Scott Steckley as they bounce off each other. Now, here comes Kennington up to the back bumper of the 47.
Great speed shot down in turn 3 and 4, but here comes Kennington hunting the lead.
To the inside, will Dumoulin give him the lane? He does. last year's Rookie of the Year.
Clear. Good job.
And now he'll tuck in behind the 17 of Kennington, who has won a championship in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, so he can learn a lot following that 17 car here. 10th place up for grabs between the 3 car and the 23. The Tim Hortons Dodge of Jeff Latsmith, you remember, driver introductions happened on pit lane for him. He had to make his way up from the tail of the field. He's doing very, very well in the early going of this race.
Jeff Lapswich very racy today in that 23 Tim Hortons Dodge.
Shepard and Fitzpatrick also make their way past the WeatherTech Dodge of DUMOULIN as DUMOULIN continues to fall back. No new Goodyears on that race car as everybody else made a stop. 7th place now. On board the 60 of Ron Beauchamp as he gets together with the MCO Dodge a little bit in 1 and 2.
Ron Beauchamp Jr. muscle himself to the inside of the 5 MCO car of Noel Dowler, and he'll take the spot going into turn 3.
I was talking to Noel Dowler a couple of races ago, and Noel said last year was such an absolutely enormous learning curve for him. He jumped out of go-karts and got into a full-bodied NASCAR Canadian Tire Series race car. Strong support from MCO, and just trying to learn as much as he possibly could. By the end of the year, he had things figured out, and this year he says, you know what, we're going guns a-blazing. And one driver who has it figured out is Mark Dilley in the 0-2, and Todd standing by with his co-driver.
Kerry Micks in an unfamiliar spot, not behind the wheel of that 0-2 machine. It's Mark Dilley tonight. I know you'd rather be out on the track, but is there an opportunity to learn something being up on the pit box here tonight?
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of things to learn. You know, I've always wanted to see it in the pits, but not necessarily this way. But you know what? I got to thank all the sponsors beyond Digital, Johnsonville, PARTSOURCE, and everybody else. You know, this car is it's the best that this car's ever worked. Spent a lot of time on it, and the car's we're going to run up front with this car.
Mark Dilley giving it a good ride tonight. Kerry Micks out of the car for the first time in 142 races.
Kerry's got a great attitude. He's got to watch his own car race, but they're making the best out of what they got. Both of them had a little bit of sponsorship, and I'll tell you what, Kerry's no dummy. He'll be watching everything that goes on with that race car, and when it goes back to the shop, they'll fix anything that's wrong with it.
And of course, Kerry Micks going to run the road course events in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series this year, and Mark Dilley will take the steering wheel for the ovals as we ride on board with J.R Fitzpatrick in the 84. Watch his hands as he works through 1 and 2. Putting a lot of steering into that Equipment Express Chevy.
Well, these are very tight corners, and we have different ratios of steering boxes we can use, but the 12-to-1 box is the favorite, but you still got to turn it a long ways. Notice he's using a small steering wheel. That's so you don't put too much wheel into it all the time, and it just slows you down a little bit with the wheel.
Everybody chasing the 60 of Ron Beauchamp Jr. in this group as we ride on board with Andrew Ranger, who is in 9th position against 2nd place in points coming into this event, just 1 point back of the leader, J.R Fitzpatrick.
There's the battle for 5th, a pair of Fords going out into turn 3, and Mark Dilley gets the spot. Oh, the 22 gives the 15 a little bit of fender on the way through.
Somebody forgot to tell Scott Steckley he's a number of laps down. He's racing like it's the very last lap of this event. He's still 6 laps back of the leader, sitting in 18th position, but he rubbed up Stephen Matthews on the way by. You know, Matthews has shown some pretty nice patience here today in the Clarington 200. He's seen some battles come, he's backed off, and he's let other drivers go. A nice sign of maturity.
Well, the first couple times he was here, he was very fast, but it was fast but. You know, so now he's learning to slow down to go faster, and that'll help him as he moves forward.
Riding on board with your race leader here in the Clarington 200, DJ Kennington sits in top spot, but for how long? Welcome back to race number 3 of the 2012 NASCAR Canadian Tire Series on TSN. I'm Dave Bradley. Joined with me is Billy Rose Jr. and Todd Lewis is trackside as we ride on board with DJ Kennington.
While the 84 and the 7 looks like 2nd place is the only spot up for grabs tonight, DJ Kennington put it on a clinic as we reach the halfway.
And that brings us to the Tim Hortons halfway update. Kennington is your leader. We've been slowed 2 cautions for 17 laps here this evening. Top rookie so far in the 99 of Cote, who sits in 13th position. He's having a pretty great run. First look at this track.
Well, he's keeping the car clean, staying out of trouble, and just logging those laps. The important seat time. We talk about it week in and week out.
These 4 Dodges have been glued together for the last 15 laps. They trade some spots, they trade paints, they bump bumpers a little bit, but really none of which able to distance themselves from any other as the leader works his way into lap traffic to the outside of Jackson, to the inside of Cote, and now lapping past the 13th place driver.
Wow, DJ just threaded the needle there. That was a tough decision, but once you say go, you gotta go.
Billy, at this point in the race, how much is a lack of those Goodyear tires going to hurt some of these drivers?
Well, some of these guys are a little bit loose, and I'll tell you, the looser the car gets, the more heat it puts in the right rear. The problem with that grows the right rear, puts more stagger in it. That makes the car even looser. So it's important to save the right rear for the long haul, and some of these cars look pretty bad loose.
And you think about it, this track, too, is pretty rough. We were down on the surface earlier on this afternoon, and it is pretty rough on those tires.
Wow, without picking on the racetrack, it's got more steps in it than my house does, for sure. But it certainly needs a resurface. But look at this down into turn one. There's the bump. Lapsovich gets all kinds of loose as he overshot the corner like we talked about in the opening.
Now here comes the snap-on dodge to the 3 of Jason Hathaway. They drag race down the back straightaway. And Hathaway will have the inside lane, but they bump together in turn number 3 and 4, and around goes Lapsovich, and Ranger got a piece of him, straightened him back up. But heavy damage to the front end of Ranger.
Wow, some heavy contact down into turn 3. Ranger gets caught up to it, and he had nothing to do with it at all. He was just the kitty by the door that got the damage. Here we are, side by side. The 3 car slips up, whacks the 23. 23 comes around right into the front end of the 27 and pretty much ruins Ranger's day.
Now we ride on board with Hathaway. And you can see just one nudge at the wrong place at the wrong time sent that 23 almost spinning, and the 60 almost spun in front of your leader as Beauchamp grabs a handful of wheel to get out of the way of your race leader at the 17 Dodge of DJ Kennington. Now you see the smoking 27. That is Andrew Ranger, and he is just in front of your leader. Now the crew's got to be thinking possibly bumper bars rubbing on the tire of that 27.
Absolutely. Ronnie Beauchamp, whoa, we got the caution. The 50 of Joey McComb goes around.
And this will be the perfect opportunity to cool those brakes off and, more importantly, get some fresh tires, finally.
Absolutely, Dave. We'll take a look at the replay here. Down into the corner, the 50 goes around off the nose of the 47.
And no real harm, no foul for the 50. He didn't get too much damage in that spin, so he'll able to get re-fired and get going again. But pit lane is a busy place, Todd.
All the leaders making their stops. The 17 Castrol Edge Dodge of DJ Kennington hits the marks. Right side going up, right side tires coming off. A smooth stop so far. All the leaders making their stop for 2 tires at this time. They will be done for the rest of the race.
Most cars will only take right side tires. Very tight pit road. DJ Kennington gets off pit road first. The Castrol crew has been fabulous tonight, winning both races off of pit road.
J.R Fitzpatrick with a pretty quick pit stop himself, but not quick enough to beat the Castrol Edge crew as DJ Kennington continues to lead the Clarington 200 here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Welcome back to the Clarington 200, the 3rd round of the 2012 NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. The number 17 Castrol Edge Dodge of DJ Kennington has led for 65 laps so far. He seems to be very dominant here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Up through the gearbox one more time, side by side with the 84 of J.R Fitzpatrick.
In front of a great crowd here, too, at the Speedway, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Packed grandstands, and the fans really are getting a treat.
Well, we heard rumor there could be a new speed plant being built here, and if the owners were taking a look at the grandstand, it's a good indication that Motorsports is well supported here in the Durham region.
Absolutely. Looking at smoke coming from the National Exhaust number 7, Pete Shepard, and it's not the good exhaust smoke that you want to see. Something coming from the rear end of that race car as he continues to fall back. Now, he had been very, very quick in the early going, so he should have no trouble hanging with the leaders, but it looks like he is struggling a little bit. On board with Ron Beauchamp Jr. He chases Jason Hathaway in the Vortex brake pads, number 3. Driver started in the back, but is now at the front. The 17 of DJ Kennington taunts with his crew chief.
Whitey, you guys weren't very happy with the penalty that NASCAR gave you before the start, but DJ's really showing them tonight.
Yeah, you know, Todd, just do with what you get dealt. I'm still a little confused myself, but the Castrol Edge Dodge is really handling good today. Just want to have a good race for our sponsors. Our team is so together right now to come back from a penalty like this. I just got kudos to them.
Well, Absolutely, the crew chief. Whoa, the 84 right tight. But you got to talk about Dave White as the crew chief, and he's in charge of the car. So in NASCAR's eyes, he made unapproved adjustments. It's hard on the driver, it's hard on the crew. But you know what? Sometimes you poke the sleeping bear, and DJ Kennington woke up ready to race.
Did he ever, as we ride on board with J.R Fitzpatrick. Look at the battle behind him, though, with Pete Shepard battling with the 0-2 of Mark Dilley. They go side by side and around the 97 of Hugo Vannini. But now Dilley, little crossways off in turn number 4, and he gets right up to the back bumper of the 84. Things are picking up in the front.
Well, just something wrong with the 84. They put them new right side tires on. The car's just not quite as good as it was. For a couple laps, he was able to hang with the 17, but you can see his hands now not as quiet. He's really working that steering wheel, trying to keep that car down in the corner.
Well, the PARTSOURCE beyond digital imaging, 0-2 of Mark Dilley working on the inside. J.R Fitzpatrick able to hang on the outside, the Equipment Express Chevy, but now he won't. He gets a little bit loose, and around goes the 0-2.
Down into turn 3, side by side. This will be the measure. A loose race car on the outside. The 0-2 will beat him up off the corner. And here comes the 7 looking for a piece of the action.
Yeah, whatever was smoking on that 7 car, Pete Shepard appears to have calmed down a little bit. You saw a little puff of it as he went into turn number 1, but it's not as bad as it was earlier. So sometimes them problems fix themselves, don't they?
Well, Dave, a lot of times what happens, we wear out so much rubber and it rolls up and it gets laying up in the chassis, gets laying down on the hot rotors and the headers, and it will smoke from time to time.
Well, Pete Shepard's definitely on the gas as he looks underneath the 84, but he'll tuck back in behind. There's Stephen Matthews in the 15 right there as well. So is Jason Hathaway. Everybody single file behind your leader, the 17 of DJ Kennington.
Kennington continues to drive away. The car just gets off the corners so much better. The thing just launches. If he ever get another shot, if he ever comes back into camera shot, you can see it turn the middle. He gets on the gas, flies the nose, and it hauls the mail.
Well, he's got about a half straightaway lead on this battle now for 3rd position as Mark Dilley has taken over 2nd in the 0-2. Now Pete Shepard to the inside of the 84, and he will assume 3rd spot. Not really being fought too hard by the 84. Now young Stephen Matthews is looking to gain some more. He looks to the inside, but he's got the 3 car of Jason Hathaway to his right side as they work down the back straightaway.
A little bit of contact off of turn 2, moved him up out of the groove. That allowed the 23 of Lapsevich to get a handle on the deal as well. He's going around the big side.
Well, Lapsevich had an eventful day. Started on pit road, almost spun coming out of turn number 4. He managed to get contact by the 27 that straightened him back up as we ride on board the 29 of Ray Quartermass Jr. The leaders go by on the outside.
Wow, everybody's into lap traffic right now. The 23 around the high side. He's able to get the spot away from the 3 and drive away.
And there is your leader, the Castrol Edge Dodge Challenger, the 17 of DJ Kennington. Champion in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, and he is putting an absolute spanking on this field here tonight.
Well, Dave, I don't know if you heard it there, but you know we have twin ignition boxes, these race cars, and in the race we'll set them up and put a rev limiter in just so that we don't get too high on the button if something happens. And you can hear the 17 Dodge just blip the limiter every time he enters the corner.
Saving his stuff, isn't he, at this point?
Absolutely, doing a great job.
How much at this point would the spotter be telling him, you know what, back it down a little bit, you've got some room behind you?
Well, here's the problem, Dave. When you got a good car and you get into a groove, if you slow down...
Whoa, we got problems. The 7 of Shepard almost goes around. He's going to stop up in turn number 1. Shepard, who is sitting in 3rd position in the National Exhaust. Dodge is well off the pace. No caution yet. And now caution flag flies as Shepard going to look for pit lane. And Billy, we'll get back to your thought in just a second, but Shepard, problems, and it could be caused, maybe related to that smoke we saw earlier.
Well, there they are racing up off turn 4. You see a lot of smoke coming out of the right rear at that time by. Whoa, and something breaks underneath the back of the race car.
It seemed to happen when he got on the gas. Todd, what's up?
The 7 of Pete Shepard along pit road. They're trying to diagnose the problem now. First they thought it was 4th gear that was gone, but now it appears that the car will go into 4th properly. Maybe an axle. The 17 for the National Exhaust Dodge having a look at it right now.
Well, rough ending for Shepard, but this will bring the leader back to the pack, 161 laps down.
What?
Just over 30 laps remain in race number 3 of the 2012 NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, the Clarington 200. DJ Kennington is your leader. He'll restart with Mark Dilley alongside. A green flag back up again.
Up through the gearbox one more time. The good thing about that caution is it made some excitement here for the fans as it brought the leader back to race with the rest of the pack.
And Dilley slides back. He'll lose a spot to the 84 of J.R Fitzpatrick. He slides into 3rd position, but a really strong run for that Ford here today.
Well, even the 15 of Matthews, first oval race of the year for him, looks like he's having a great outing.
Absolutely, just hiding there in the top 5 and having a clean race so far. Not too many marks on that race car, but trying to bring it home in one piece. That's the all-important part.
J.R Fitzpatrick on cold tires is able to mount a charge against the 17, but as before, the DJ Kennington automobile pulls away as the temperature comes up in the tires.
Well, you just watch all those other race cars. They start to slide around a little bit. Hence is the only one that sticks it straight off the corners.
All night long, being a retired driver, I always like my cars to go down and turn the middle. That thing turns the middle, takes a set, and you can hear him get right on the loud pedal. Everybody else is feathering.
Fellas, a tough night for Martin Brouillard in the number 90. He had a good race at ICAR a couple of weeks ago. Broken oil line on the back, and that's what the crew is trying to get repaired. Had some issues earlier in the day as well. Had a problem with his brakes and ended up backing it lightly into the wall during practice. That was repaired. Now it's the oil line that's got him stuck on pit road.
Had a good chat with Brouillard earlier on in the day, a former dirt modified racer, and he said, you know what, I'm making a serious deal as we got contact down the back straightaway. Matthews and Lapsevich, just as we talked about these two drivers trying to stay off each other, a battle for 4th spot heating up. And Matthews will tuck in behind the 23, but why is serious about this deal? He's running the full season.
Inside. Take your corner inside. Still down there inside.
Wow, you're able to see when they got down into the corner side by side, the 02 car of Mark Dilley was able to roll the middle about 2 or 3 car lengths better than the 84, and that's the difference right now.
And that was Joe Chisholm Jr., the spotter for J.R Fitzpatrick, advising him on where that 02 was in relation to his race car. As the field speeds by, they're still pretty close in the front, but nobody really has anything for the 17 of DJ Kennington. There he is, going off into the distance.
Oh, he is set sail, paid the motel bill, and heading for home.
But still a lot of positions to be sorted out here in the Clarington 200. There's Scott Steckley, last year's champion in the Canadian Tire number 22. He's racing on track with the 47 of LP DUMOULIN, but not for position as the 22 car still a number of laps down. DUMOULIN sitting in 9th.
Well, for his first time here on this oval, 9th is a very good outing for DUMOULIN.
The 84 of J.R Fitzpatrick solidly in 3rd position, now being hunted by the Tim Hortons Dodge, the 23 of Jeff Lapsevich. And Lapsevich running the full season. He hasn't done that yet here in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. Plans to run the full deal, so he really needs these good points finishes.
Well, we talked about it before, you know, that Lapsevich wanting to run the whole deal and really see what he can muster up in the championship, but also in the back of his mind, he's thinking about all the homework they can do, preparing for his young son, Caden, to take the wheel in the 23 car.
That 27 car of Andrew Ranger sure doesn't look pretty, but it seems to be going all right as he battles with the 3 of Jason Hathaway.
Up front, it's still the 17 of DJ Kennington. One more time around, and they will get the victory here on the oval track.
Well, at this point, Kennington can punch the cruise control, and he can ride it around this half-mile track for one more time. Down the back straightaway for the Castrol Edge Dodge for the final time, in through 3 and 4. He's got a car just ahead of him, but won't pose a trouble. Off the 4 for the final time. The win will go to the 17 of Kennington.
The 17 Castrol kid from St. Thomas, Ontario, registers his first win of the year.
Mark Dilley with a season-best finish in the 02, and J.R Fitzpatrick will round out the top 3, but what a performance by Kennington. Have you ever dreamt about having your... Welcome back to Victory Lane here at the Clarington 200. He now sits 2nd on the all-time NASCAR list with 12 wins, and the 17 has found its way to Victory Circle.
DJ Kennington is climbing out of that number 17 Castrol Edge Dodge. and celebrating with a big smile on his face. And I know you didn't like the penalty at the start of the race. You went to the back, but boy, you started the charge right away. This was a dominating victory.
Awesome race car, Todd. That's all I can say. Whitey, all my guys, best race team I could ever ask for. Great pit stops, man. Just awesome. Just really, really proud of them. My whole race team, Castrol Edge, Mahindra Tractors, Brian Cathcart, Mopar, Dodge, everybody that makes this series happen, Canadian Tire, the fans, it's just awesome. Just an awesome race car tonight. Great motor. My dad is the man. Happy Father's Day, Dad. I love you.
Congratulations, DJ Kennington, win number 1 this season.
Well, just a dominating performance by the Castrol Edge team.
And we'll take a look at the rest of the top 10. How about a good run for the youngster Stephen Cote? Noel Dowler coming home inside the top 10. Jeff Laxovich inside the top 5 in that 23. Now Todd standing by with your second place finisher, Mark Dilley.
Mark Dilley, first race of the season. Pretty good result with a second place finish.
Yeah, really, really happy. Can't thank the guys at the shop enough. Kerry, his team, all my guys, so my team worked real hard. And of course, we got to thank PartSource, Leland, Beyond Digital, and Johnsonville, STP, Armor All, just everybody, Cathcart, everybody that's helped us out. We put it together late. We kind of mixed it up, and hey, here we are. That's not a bad debut. We'll take that. For sure.
What a great job. They put 2 really good drivers together in one team, and the results are showing.
Definitely a breath of fresh air as we take a look at the point standings. DJ Kennington moves to second, 1 point back at J.R Fitzpatrick. How about Scott Steckley? Look at that. A big drop down to 4th position, 22 points back. There's Landon French presenting DJ Kennington with a trophy here today. To the winner goes the spoils. Today's race has been brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn. By Mahindra, the world's #1 selling tractor. And by TW Steel, big in oversized watches.
To the winner goes the spoils, but I'll tell you what, the people that got treated right tonight were the fans. What an awesome show here tonight.
So the next race back on an oval at Delaware Speedway just outside of London, Ontario. From all of us here at TSN, we'll see you there.